I've heard you speak a lot about the DNA that runs through our church, and it's been running through our church since its inception. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is when every church is founded, whenever you start, you have a beginning story, things that matter to you, the heart of what a particular congregation does and what they're about and things that matter most deeply to them. My conviction and my observation from serving in different churches and being around churches through Presbyterian and other relationships with pastors is that each church has a specific identity which makes their ministry not only unique, but also has a lot of power in it. Because, God calls each of us, not just as individuals, but as congregations, to have a life in the midst of our community. And it grows out of their context and who we are. And part of being a healthy congregation is understanding what our DNA is. And in a sense, it's talking about what is it that matters most deeply to us. And one of the things I've discovered is that when churches kind of lose touch with some of their DNA, those are the points that become the most painful in the life of the church. It's not because people have been hurt by it, but it's because it's this deep longing to be what we know we're called to be. So when we talk about DNA, we're talking about our founding story, but we're also talking about what it is that matters most deeply to us.
And what are the threads that you have seen here at Wayne?
Well, already at Wayne, one of the things I've seen is there is a desire for excellence in worship. Not that I feel pressure about it, but there is a desire to have good preaching here, that really matters in this congregation. But also the depth and the breadth of our music program is at the heart of who we are, and it's part of our identity. And that's a part of our identity that I think we live into in a very good and a healthy way. Another part of our identity is we are a mission-minded congregation that, deep down, this congregation is not satisfied when life is about everything that happens at 125 East Lancaster Avenue, but instead this congregation cares about what happens outside of our doors, right here in Wayne, but even beyond in the Philadelphia area, but also around the world. And we see that in a couple of different ways. We see it partially from our engagement in the local community, thinking about food security, thinking about hosting for Family Promise, being a place where people who are in need can come to the Wayne Presbyterian Church. Another way we see it is our engagement in Southwest Philadelphia. It's been going on for a long time. And it's an engagement that, if you look at the history of it, that I've learned over the last couple months, it not only has broadened, but it's deepened. We especially think of it with the Commonplace, but I was just down there this week visiting, and I was talking with Chris Holland about some of their needs and some of their hopes and some of their dreams. And as I was listening to Chris Holland speak, I kept thinking his dreams for that community resonate with the dreams of the Wayne Presbyterian Church and who we are. And I can see an ongoing deepening and broadening relationship down there. And I see that as one of the core things about our life together. One other thread I see is this thirst for adult education. When I was interviewing, I asked about small groups, and there was a little bit of hesitancy. We don't have a lot of small groups because that's not what we call them. But as I've gotten involved here at Wayne, I see there are lots of small groups that happen. There are Bible studies that happen on Wednesday and Thursday mornings. There are Sunday school classes that happen for adults on Sunday mornings, and a couple different ones. There are opportunities after worship for people to learn and connect together. And I've discovered that there's this longing for not only relationship with God, but relationship with each other based on our common faith and the things we care about. And those are some of the threads that I've already seen running through here in the life of the Wayne Presbyterian Church.
You've been at Wayne now about 2 months, I guess. And during that time, I understand you've been very open to receiving and listening to people in the congregation who are willing to share their thoughts with you.
Right.
What have you learned from that? Any surprises? Are there similar themes from the congregants? Are people all over the map?
I've heard a lot of similar themes. I haven't been really surprised by anything particularly. I have been encouraged because one of the things I've discovered is people love and are committed to this church and to our mission to grow and to serve and to care for our community and each other. And that's been one of the things that's been really encouraging to me. One of the things I hear again and again, and there's some of the things that we talked about in terms of what matters to people. I've heard people talk about worship and how important worship is. I've heard people talk about education and how important education is. And the other thing I've heard from people is this longing for relationship with each other and to really make deep connections with each other. So I've been really excited to hear all that. And another thing I've heard is people are kind of itching for a new big thing. You know, what's the next thing? Because it was 11 years ago that we made a big investment in the Commonplace. And I've had a number of people come to me and say, we want to know what the next big thing is. But my answer to that is always the same, which is, I can't wait for us to figure that out together.
Mm-hmm. How would you say you're using this information that you're learning?
Right now, I'm in the information collection phase, but I'm just starting to put some pieces together about what all this information I'm learning about our church, all the stories I'm hearing, what it says about who we are as a congregation. And I've been thinking about how that's going to shape my ministry and my presence here. And really what it's done more than anything is it's kind of helped me to think about what are the areas that I feel like we need to focus on in the next few months, not even a year ahead, but the next few months. One of those things is, I think sometimes when I hear people talk about this congregation, where we've been, what we've done, the kind of ministry that we have, I think people undersell it. They talk about what's happened here and they say, they have this way of telling it where it's like, yeah, we did this and that, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. That's kind of the attitude. But what I want to tell people is the things that God has done here through this congregation have been amazing. This congregation has raised up pastors. This congregation has sent faithful people out into the world. This congregation has helped to transform a community in Southwest Philadelphia. It has been a transformative presence right here in Wayne. It's been a place where people have grown up and learned about God's love for them in Jesus Christ, and they've carried that with them throughout their whole lives. I've heard generations of families who've been part of this church who don't want to leave because of how powerful the ministry has been here. But I think sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't recognize how special it is and how important it is and how significant it is and how powerful it is to be part of a community where those things happen.